Hi, everybody, and welcome to this special series on the Check podcast, where we explore what it really means to lead well-being at work, at school, and at home. In this series, we're talking with leaders, educators, and corporate builders, and community builders in creating cultures of care, purpose, and connection. Our first guest I'm excited to speak with is Mr. Karel Vredenberg. And Karel, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. So, brief introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself to the audience.
So I have been a long-term design executive. I have been most recently global vice president of design and research at IBM globally, and I retired from that role about a year and a half ago, and I have started a nonprofit called Habits for a Better World. So really trying to do my part to inspire personal behavior changes that will make for healthier humans, healthier planet, and healthier animals, etc. as well. So that's where I am focused today.
Oh, thank you. And it's amazing to think of, when you step back, the interconnectedness of absolutely everything that you just mentioned there.
Absolutely
so
right.
Let me get you my first question is what does well-being at work mean to you?
So it's always been the same, and it's basically focused on empathy, respect, and trust among my colleagues. Whether that's people above me, people beside me, people are so-called below me in the organization. That's how I define success. And it doesn't really even matter what the focus of the work is. It's really the relationship with the people that I'm working with.
Can you share one thing that your organization did, big or small, that genuinely supported, let's say, mental health in a positive culture in your workplace?
Yeah, I've brought in myself a number of initiatives that I think are all focused on mental health. So when I was a vice president, I introduced AMAs, basically Ask Me Anythings, that none of my colleagues did. They did afterwards, after they saw what I was doing. But basically it was literally Ask Me Anything. A lot of executives are afraid to do that because it's like, oh my God, what if, they ask a question I can't answer? Well, I was honest and said, when I couldn't answer completely honestly, let's say, I would just say that's something that's confidential. But we've also done things like giving people the day off for their birthday. I think that was a nice gesture. I also started during the pandemic, but I introduced a monthly mental health day. That everybody in my organization would have that day off and they could do whatever they wanted. Some of them would do things together, but it was really, I think, really supported the notion of mental health in the workplace.
Oh, wow. That is, I love that answer. And I hope more companies, the AMA is something new to me, so I'm absolutely going to introduce it wherever I can. I think that's a great way to lead. What's one challenge that you faced as a leader when it comes to supporting your team's well-being?
Well, again, let me answer it from a for-profit point of view and then from a not-for-profit, what I'm running right now. The for-profit world, especially in tech right now, is dealing with a lot of layoffs. And in my experience, those are some of the hardest things, where you also don't, as an executive or a manager, a leader of whatever sort, where you don't have control over that. You want to keep certain people and certain people that are not needed in the organization anymore. I have always been of the belief that when I've hired somebody, I'm invested in them and their skills and their mental health. And the last little while before I decided to retire, I was experiencing that I didn't have that control. For most of my career, that was the case. I had control over that. But it was more of a, we were cutting by a certain percentage or whatever. So that was a real challenge, but I still maintained my AMA openness, my transparency, where I could, to really support the employees. In the nonprofit world, I lead a voluntary organization of 350 people from all around the world, designers, researchers, filmmakers, and developers. And they have day jobs, most of them, and they at times are not available. So one of the real challenges and the adjustments too in working in a nonprofit world, especially a voluntary one, was you can't be as firm with regard to deadlines and the like as well. And it's also the case. So what do? I have a co-founder and co-leader and a young woman named Karel Williams, and she and I lean in and say, okay, if you can't meet this deadline, well, we can adjust it. We need to be honest with each other in terms of what time availability you have and like. But it's also the case that I have a sense that when you're a voluntary contributor, the organization owes you. I mean, we're for-profit companies too, but especially the nonprofit world. So when I onboard new members, and people are constantly asking to be part of this organization that you don't get any money for, but you just feel like you're feeding your soul rather than just your wallet, is the way that I think many of them talk about it. But the way that I approach that is to ask them, what do they want to get out of this other than, doing good for the world and the like? And so a number of them, one woman said she wanted to be a leader, and she'd never been a leader. She'd been on, a individual contributor for some 15 years. I said, okay, you can be a leader and I can support you in you really learning to be a leader. She just told me a few months ago that she's now been promoted at work and she's now a manager in the organization. So that sort of work. Some other people are wanting to learn new skills. So he said, okay, let's go. If they want to learn a new discipline, or we've also got an AI team, and a lot of people really want to learn about effective and ethical AI, and they can learn that as well. So it's all in the service of trying to support the people that you lead, and also see them all as colleagues rather than employees or staff members, whether voluntary or not. So I'd always also resisted the terms of that the staff that reported to me. Well, no, we're colleagues. Yes, okay, on an org chart they look like they report to me, but I think it's really effective if you work collaboratively with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the big question. Yeah. Looking after the people that you work with and so forth. One of the things that we discuss at our support group table all the time is looking after ourselves first, which we tend to put everyone else first, but and ourselves last. So what do you personally do to kind of recharge your mental health or your holistic health?
Well, starting with even being at work, I realized when I got a bunch of promotions that it's lonely at the top. And while I had those AMAs where I could say a number of things, certain things I couldn't. And so you really still need somebody to be able to collaborate with and like. And so I actually only accepted the VP role if I could actually have this one woman, Lauren Swanson, to be my chief of staff. And she was my confidant. She was my strategy partner. She was the one that would give me feedback really honestly when others wouldn't. And she was the one that was also trusted by the staff and the like. And so I often could, during a difficult day, come back and say, hey, Lauren, let's get, and it was completely confidential. Like, and now, like I said, I'm working with this co-founder, Karel Williams, and she too, and I are full collaborators, full empathy with one another. We don't always agree, but we respect one and each other and trust each other and the like. But in addition to that, I also make sure that I'm not only doing my work. So making sure that I've got more to my life. And so I spend a lot of time with family and friends, but I also have done for my whole career, focused on trying to make the world a better place. And so, whether it's leading, boards of directors, which I did for an organization called VegTO, which is some 80-year-old organization that really tries to promote more plant-based living in the Toronto area. I also serve on as a board of advisors for two other organizations, one for-profit one, a startup that's called PRAXXI, which is trying to really use AI to enable and support employees in organizations and skill development, but also support and the like. And then another organization called Food for Climate League, which has a similar objective to that one that I talked about before. And they have some 14 staff. And so I basically am their coach and mentor. So they have my Calendly link. They can set up a meeting whenever they want to talk about anything. And it's always been my view too, that when I work with people, it's not just the work environment or their career that is the focus. If they have something going on in their lives that really is problematic, and even for my nonprofit right now, several people just call on me and we have a chat to support the transition that they're going through, a support that they need, whether that's with family, with the work environment that they're in. Some of them have lost their jobs and they need help getting another one and the like. And so in addition to all of that, I still also do a podcast like yours. So I have one called Life Habits that I started some 18 years ago. And that one, Nelson, was also a matter of that. I started off in clinical psychology in my PhD program. And while I went and pivoted into, a technology company, I kind of always still wanted to give back with my knowledge in that area to do good, to support people. And so I also started that podcast to do that, to provide guidance and the like, and the latest research and that sort of thing as well. So that's how I see making a balanced life.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'd love to keep talking about that. So as a former leader and still now mentor, because one of my favorite phrases lately has been culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yep.
And I know truly what that means through my experiences in my career. But what advice would you give to other leaders who want to create a culture where people can truly thrive?
Yeah, the only way that I know how to do that is to be a servant leader. And what that really means is that your role is not for you to shine, is not for you to be getting credit for everything. It's for enabling your team to be successful in whatever ways they can. I think that there's a real sort of pivot that a lot of people need to make in order to be a servant leader, because leaders often are rewarded for, they're brilliant, they're a great speaker, they're whatever. But in order to be a good leader of people, and I don't think a lot of people in leadership positions right now are leaders of people. They are leaders of, numbers and spreadsheets, quite frankly. And I think in order to be a leader of people, you need to be a servant to them, even if you are their executive, right? So if you do what you need to do to remove blockers, challenges that they've got, support that they need, new skills they need to develop or whatever, or have, as I said earlier, having mental health days off, evidence shows that if you do that, you've got teams that are way more successful and way happier, and you're happier because you're working with colleagues that appreciate you, but also you are together being way more successful.
Yeah, I love those answers. Thank you so much. I know that the future of workplace wellness that you're involved in, and I hope you talk about it more as we chat here. But the future of well-being for both the person, for our planet, and all the above. I know when working on a project like that, it's really hope-based. We hope to see right? So what's your hope for the future in well-being for the person and organizations and just people alike?
Yeah, so I've been teaching basically empathy, and I also use, design thinking is the overall framework that I've been teaching and doing. I use that in everything I do, which basically involves meeting people where they are, understanding where they're at, empathizing with what they're doing, and then coming up with solutions and then getting feedback as you go with particular solutions. So I have activated a number of companies, probably hundreds of companies using that. I was having a meeting with a senior US healthcare company, and I was saying, this is what your physicians, need to pivot to. And one woman, the senior team, and woman said, you know what, all my brothers and sisters are all physicians and they're all my age, and she was older, said, they're not going to change. I said, okay, well, and she said, well, what we really need to do is introduce this for the up and coming leaders. And so they actually worked on actually creating their own medical school, and they made what I was teaching the foundation of that. And I think I feel the same way about my teaching. So I basically teach EMBA students, so up and coming rising stars in organizations. I teach board directors, across the country in Canada, and I also teach in a national health fellows program, which is the most senior health leaders from across the Canadian organizations as well. And in each of those cases, I'm really buoyed with and really encouraged by those groups of students, that I think they are in a good position to make the world a better place. And I think when they rise in their organizations, like those EMBA students, for example, I think they're going to focus more heavily on the person. And that's incredibly important right now, given the AI world that we're in now. It has a huge danger. It's already causing a lot of strife, in organizations, a lot of layoffs, for ostensibly for the reason for that they're going to be replaced by AI. And I think that there is a way to basically allocate work appropriately for, this is work that an AI should do when it's capable to do it. And this work should never be done by AI. For example, I've got a version of design thinking called symbiotic design thinking that basically does that. And we do it for the human in the loop, but I also do it for the environment. Because if we just get everything done by AI and the biggest models, we're also going to destroy the planet because of the amazing, energy consumption of it as well. But getting back to the human, I think that humans need to change too as we transition more into this AI world. So entry-level positions are going to be done by AI. So we need to now change, and I'm involved in that as well. We need to transition education so that we are teaching people to not do the same thing as AI can do, but do the things that really humans need to be able to do and enjoy doing and are great at doing. And so I've converted my teaching over to making sure that we teach, this is what you should be using AI for, this you shouldn't. And I just worry that many companies are just so enamored with AI. They're like, wow, we'll get AI to do everything, right? We're going to let all these people go. Well, that's not only horrible for the people that are losing their jobs, but it's also horrible for the people that remain, partly because they're worried about the next day that they're going to get the nod, but also that they may not be doing the work that they're really good at, but somebody thinks that an AI should do. So I think we're entering a phase here, Nelson, that requires an intense focus on what the human is capable of doing and should be doing, and really focusing too on satisfaction with doing that work, right? And so you can't simply see the equation as switch everything over to AI, but at the same time, you can't push it away either, because if you do that, you'll likely lose your job. So I think we're in a really interesting time that, with the right focus, like the focus of your organization, really making sure that you're focused on the human in the equation, I think we can be really successful. And I think the companies, especially startups that do that now, some of the large tech companies, I think, won't be able to pivot on this. They're also letting a lot of designers and researchers go, so their products are not going to be as well designed anymore for their customers. I think it's startups. So somebody listening to this right now, coming up with a new company idea that elevates and optimizes the human capabilities, but at the same time as leveraging the AI capabilities and doing all of that with a view to the human in the equation, they're going to be successful. And I think that those companies will be more effective, more successful, and they'll have staff that really, really enjoys working there.
Yeah, absolutely. To all the above. I look forward to seeing the progression of what you're working on moving forward. If there's anything that Capillary Wave community can do to help that, please let us know. But Karel, thank you so much for participating in this. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great interview. And I really love what you're doing. And we could possibly do some things collaboratively as we advance this Habits for a Better World. We're actually working on particular themes for particular phases. So we're going to be working on, climate. We're also going to be working on, I've got one group that's focused on the humane workplace. So, and maybe that's something that we can collaborate on. We'll see.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.